Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
What's required and asked of you to represent our university.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
We're on in to finish what we've started.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Sunshine Quality Solutions. Super Chevy Dealers. And Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Andre Champagne and our hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
Three great players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and the Editor, Glenn Guilbeau. And Andre Champagne is our producer tonight. A packed show. Got a lot to cover in 2 hours. LSU has a new football coach, Lane Kiffin, officially introduced to the media on Monday after arriving in Baton Rouge on Sunday. What a whirlwind it has been since the second half of the Texas A&M game. And guys, I don't know if we can catch our breath yet because it looks like the early signing period is going to be wild and crazy too, and we'll get to that a little bit as well. So a lot to get to here over the next couple of hours. We will hear from Peter Burns from the SEC Network. He will join us. Jerit Roser will talk some recruiting. And we'll also have someone on from Ole Miss as well, or not from Ole Miss, but someone who covers Ole Miss. So, but first, let's get to the man that's been very busy, who has been kind of flying, trying to stay under the radar as he was conducting a coaching search, and that is the athletics director for the LSU Tigers, Verge Osbury. Verge, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. How you doing?
Doing well. I told Andre earlier, I got the dream team tonight. I got Todd, Glenn, and Jeff on the phone.
Well, we appreciate you saying that. I mean, how crazy has this? I know you said yesterday you've been involved in other coaching searches, and I would imagine each one's unique. Each one presents different challenges, but this one, I don't think you'll have anything like this ever again. I would imagine, Verge.
Yeah, it was interesting, and we were ready for it. We moved in the future, but it was a search, and we had to give our best shot out there. We had many candidates who were very interested in coming to LSU, and that's the good part about it. With all that going on, just shows how strong our brand is. We took some hits over the last 4 weeks, but at the end of the day, people understand what LSU football is about around the country. And they were very, very interested in this job. And a lot of calls, a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings. It was a great process. And it was a good process for me to go through just to see that, how much people value what we do here at LSU and how far ahead we are. A lot of people in this business. And LSU is one of the best jobs in the country. I've told people that many times before. We rank up there with Georgia and Ohio State. You look at jobs where the people – we control our own recruiting and our own base in our states, and we don't compete with anybody, and that's makes you so strong, and that's why we where we are today.
Hey, Verge, it's Todd. You mentioned just now that LSU did take some PR hits. A lot of people misunderstood things that were going on. It wasn't as delineated, I guess, as a lot of people would have liked it to have been, but that intro press conference yesterday for Lane Kiffin had the best energy, I think, that I've ever been around at an introductory press conference for any other coach. And it's just amazing. You talk about the strength of the LSU brand, but you had to take a lot of pride in leading that effort and seeing it culminate like it's almost like it was a national championship type parade or something.
It was, and that's the thing. That's the power of LSU. The people at LSU. We have great people. We have great people in this department. We have great boosters. We have great people at Tiger Athletic Foundation. We're just a great group, and I knew it would be like that. And you're right. As I said, Todd, earlier, those tingles you get in your stomach when you walk into that stadium, and how important it is to be an LSU Tiger. All those things came back, and you see the pride in our former players, the former football players around the country who are just talking about just a beaming of pride about, wow, we got our coach. He was the number one coach on the board. Everybody waited for us, and we got the number one guy that we went for. It doesn't happen many times in this business, and that shows the power and the strength of where we are as a program. And Skip Bertman always used to tell me, we LSU, we should be there. That's where we should be as a program.
Well, Verge, you said it right here about 3 weeks ago when you were on Tiger Rag Radio. We asked you the impact of the politics and the governor and so forth that got a lot of attention nationally. And you said that football coaches coach and there's not going to be any problem if they win. And you said there's no controversy with this search right here. And you were exactly right about that. So how smooth was it from beginning to end? Because you really never deviated from Lane at all. I think you talked to some other people just in case, but for the most part, it was Lane and Lane only, right?
It was Lane. He was our choice. He was our guy. We talked to some other people, had some great interest, and some people we considered, and really had a good conversation with them about, hey, is that the guy? Is that the person we should go for? But the conversation went well, and we had good meetings with other people. But at the end of the day, as I said, it kept coming back to Lane. Lane, the guy, is Lane the one we want? What does he bring to the table? You look at what he's done at Ole Miss, and I tell people, LSU is a different job. It's a big job. We're a job who've been 3 coaches who won national championships, the SEC championships, playing the SEC championship games. That's LSU. And the person who handles this job is a guy who has 2 hands on the wheel. It's an 18-wheeler job. It's a big boy job. Many constituents and many constituencies that we have to deal with at LSU, and it had to be somebody to handle all of that. And that's why he was the guy that we thought was the person to take us to the next level.
Verge, Thursday, November 20th, Friday, November 21st, that's when I was hearing that everything was going smoothly for Lane. Later Friday is when Ross Dellinger wrote the story about the contract. Is that about the time you felt most comfortable that you had Lane, or was it even before that? When did you feel like it was 95% done?
Pretty much that Saturday of the Oklahoma game.
Oh, okay.
We had, my thing is never done till something's signed. And nothing's ever done till you get him on that plane and get him to Baton Rouge. So I worked it where we felt we were in a good position. We felt we had it done. But at the same time, hey, you know what? Nothing is never done until something is signed and he's here in Baton Rouge. So we worked it like he wasn't the head coach here yet, and we just kept working and said, you know what? We have to finish this off. Let's get it across the line, and whatever we have to do to get it across the line, let's keep working and get it done. Don't take up. Don't sleep at night. Don't be like, okay, he's definitely coming to LSU. No, that doesn't happen. And as you see, a lot of programs get caught like that. I mean, we didn't want to get caught at the end.
Verge, one of the things that obviously caught a lot of people's attention was especially in the last week or so, was the back and forth between Lane when he pretty much had decided, or it seemed like he had decided he was going to come to LSU or at least leave Ole Miss, as far as the public perceived. And he was talking about, as he talked about a lot yesterday at the press conference, that he wanted to stay and coach the team. And that you said that LSU was willing to allow him to do that and wanted him to do that. Can you explain, A, why you wanted him to be able to finish coaching that team through the college football playoffs, B, how it would benefit both Ole Miss and LSU in your mind, and C, how you would react if the roles were reversed and it was you losing a coach to a SEC rival?
Okay, the first question, Todd, is when we sitting down there with him and we were meeting with him, that question came up. The question came up is, hey, if I wanted to coach, my team in the college playoffs, would you let me do it? And the answer was yes. And he said, that's the most important question. We knew the timing. Look, this cycle of the way you have to do coaches now with the early recruiting signing period and the portal, we know that's important. We just told him, like, look, you make the announcement, you come to LSU, we do the press conference, you tell them you want to coach your team, then you coach your team. I think that's good for LSU. It's good publicity for LSU, and it shows you where we have a coach coaching in the playoffs and have a chance to win a national championship. And that's why we were pushing it. We were for it. In no time we said, that would be bad for us. He would have a staff down here. They'd be recruiting for us. He was making calls for us. We had no problems with that. On the other hand, you asked me about at LSU. Would we let a coach do that? I think that's something we ought to discuss as a board and a president, where we would be and where this program at, and depending on where is he going also. And a lot of times it probably might have the same answer as Ole Miss, but I can't answer that now because it hasn't happened to us. Right. But that's something that took a lot of people and a lot of involvement from a lot of people to make that decision.
We're talking to Verge Osbury, LSU Athletic Director here on Tiger Rag Radio. Verge, you've been involved with a lot of these searches going back to when LSU hired Coach Sabin. How did you keep your meeting with Lane from not being seen? I understand it might have been in the state of Mississippi. When was that about, and like who was all there? If you can share a little bit, and how did you keep from being seen by the public?
Yeah, what costume did you wear?
We snuck in. Part of our team, it was three of us that met with the coaches. It was John Carmouche, he's on the board supervisor of the athletic council, and there was Julie Cromer, my executive athletic director here. We're the ones who went in and had the meeting. These meetings, you work around great coaches. You don't sit up there and talk about, what play you're going to run on 3rd and 8, or, how your offense going to be set up, how your defense is going to set up. You're talking to great coaches and coaches who win. You sit up there and ask them, hey, look, what's it going to take? We would like you to be the coach at LSU. What is it going to take? What do you expect? Those expectations. What's the expectations of the athletic director and our relationship? And then, we show them, this is the NIL. This is where we are. This is where we need to be. What do you need it to be? How do you need it to look? And that's pretty much how you set this thing up. And we had the shortest meeting, I think, of anybody who met with him. It lasted about an hour and 10 minutes. It wasn't a long meeting. Skip Bertman and Nick Saban used to tell me, you don't insult a coach. You don't go in there and tell the coach, okay, now tell me what you do. Most guys, I do know football, but most ADs don't even know football. And they ask questions that, you're really insulting the guy. You don't go to Jay Johnson, we interview him, and ask him, what you going to do in 7th inning, what pitcher you're going to use, or you don't ask Kim Mulkey, you're going to run a fast-paced offense, a triangle, or whatever type of offense she wants to run. So those are things that you don't insult coaches. You say, hey, look, we here, you're our guy, you're our woman. What does it take for you to be successful? That's what we do.
Well, Verge, congratulations on the hire. I believe most LSU fans are excited about it, and I think every one of us is waiting and or can't wait for the Lane Kiffin experience to really get going. I think we're starting to already recognize it with this National Signing Day, but it should be a fun ride with Lane. Thanks a lot for your time. Get some sleep, and we'll talk to you again here soon.
Thank you. Go Tigers.
All right.
Thanks, Verge.
Verge Osbury, the athletics director for LSU. We'll take a break and come back with more from the Super Chevy Dealers studio.
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious with multiple engine options and impressive towing. While Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability, making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a fourth-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and the editor, Glenn Guilbeau. Good conversation there with Verge Osbury. Always great that he takes time to talk with us, and it's great that we can just call him the athletics director and not some long title like he had previously. And coming up a little bit later on, we're going to hear from, actually in the next segment, Michael Katz from Northeast Mississippi Journal. Will continue to get the fallout from Oxford on Lane Kiffin's decision to leave the Rebels and become the next head coach of the LSU Tigers. But Todd, in one of your questions to Verge, you talked about the energy that Lane Kiffin had, and it was you felt it more, if you would, than other previous press conferences. And this is one of my feelings about the whole situation. Take Ed Orgeron out of it, because Louisiana guy, LSU assistant, very familiar with everything that there is about LSU. But the other three, I guess the last three head coaching hires, Nick Saban, Les Miles, Brian Kelly, none of those guys ever coached in Tiger Stadium prior to coming to LSU. And Glenn, maybe you can even back me up on this. When Nick Saban got here, it was like, yeah, I've coached in big stadiums. I've been to the big house. I've coached in the NFL. Tiger Stadium's great, but it's, they never, like, Lane Kiffin knows the passion here. He knows, as he mentioned, the intensity that you feel as an opponent and how uplifting the crowd in Tiger Stadium can be. And I think he has a greater appreciation of being the head coach at LSU. Not to say that Nick and Brian and Les didn't, but there's a more familiarity with what it's like here and what LSU football is all about than those three.
I think you're right, and I think he expressed that fairly eloquently yesterday at the press conference when he was talking about the fact that he's been involved in two top 10
most
battles,
intense games ever.
Overtime games. One of Alabama when he was with Alabama, and one last year with Ole Miss. And
both at Tiger Stadium.
They won in 2014 with Alabama here at Tiger Stadium, and they lost in overtime last year when Kyron Lacey made that catch from Garrett Nussmeier. But, yeah, he's talking about that. But even more and deeper than that, he appreciates and he expresses appreciation for everything that there is to know about LSU sports, right? He talked about the rabid fan base. He talked about the stadium on a Saturday night. He talked about the football operations center looking like an NFL program. He talked about the recruiting base. He talked about
the brand.
And what I took from it, and I wrote it in a column on TigerRag.com today, I took that he's saying, you know what, combine my offense with these resources and this talent, attraction, the ability to pull this talent, and we're going to set the world on fire. And I believe that. I really believe that. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask Verge, and we just simply didn't have time. But it's, 3 or 4 weeks ago when Verge was on the show with us the last time, he talked about how all the coaches, because we were talking about the search at that time, all the coaches know the X's and O's. And he kind of spoke a little bit about that again today. And it's not about their football knowledge. It's about how else they fit with the program, with the fans, the boosters, the donors, the administration, the staff, the school. That is where Lane Kiffin brought that energy yesterday. And it was so authentic. It was so real. I know that's the same thing, but it was amazing for me to sit there and watch it, not as a fan, And I couldn't clap, and I didn't want to clap like the guy behind me did over and over again.
No, I didn't sit next to Todd for obvious reasons. No, I'm just kidding. Well, he is. I think he is the first head coach LSU's ever hired who's been a head coach against LSU in Tiger Stadium. I don't think that's ever happened before. When you think about LSU's, there's been some that were assistants against LSU, I think, like Curley. Curley was an assistant.
And DiNardo, they went up there?
I don't think DiNardo coached at Vanderbilt at LSU. But and he's also, I've said this a few times, he's the first real offensive coordinator, quarterback guru, play caller to be an LSU head coach, So he doesn't have to hire a great offensive coordinator. He is the offensive coordinator. And Charlie Weiss has got the title, but he's kind of like an extension of Lane. That's why I wrote today, Lane's going to be coaching Ole Miss in the playoff game via Charlie Weiss.
Well, we hadn't even talked about that. So, unless our listeners have seen that somewhere, they don't even know that.
Yeah, Charlie Weiss is going to be allowed to coach, be the play caller, be the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss in the playoffs.
Right.
That was the news today.
Much like Bo Pelini, after he accepted the Nebraska head coaching job in 2007, he stayed on and coached LSU's defense through the national championship win against Ohio State and drew 2 paychecks, which I'm sure Weiss will do as well. So that's really cool. LSU's being real nice to Ole Miss. they're paying Lane's bonuses and all that, so it's pretty cool.
Obviously, LSU's just doing whatever it can, to make sure. One, they did everything they could to make sure Lane felt comfortable here, and there was some speculation that Charlie Weiss may return for this, at least for the playoffs, and that would have been tough for Ole Miss. I don't know how they would have handled that if they had to throw in a whole new play caller in there.
Exactly.
That would have been really, really rough. So glad to see that's occurring for the Rebels. We'll take a break. We'll get more of the Ole Miss perspective on all of this. Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal will join us. Again, we're going to have Peter Burns from the SEC Network. He will join us as well. And then Jerit Roser, Louisiana versus all y'all, will join us to talk recruiting in hour number 2. So a lot to get to. This is Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Tiger Rag Radio is back, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horne and Glenn Guilbeau. Let's get to our very next guest. That is Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal. Michael, are you trying to catch your breath just like all of us here? What's it been like in Oxford here over the last 72 hours or so?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding when I say that I slept 12 hours on Monday after it was finally over.
But it's not over. It's not over, Michael.
It's never completely over, but that chapter was over. I mean, it was. I think there's a part of people here in Oxford that knew that there was the potential it could end ugly. I don't know if we knew that it would get this ugly. Really, the last 24, 48 hours, it got pretty bad. But he made his decision, and Ole Miss moved on too. So, but yeah, no, it was an adventure. I was outside the Manning Center for several hours on Sunday, just trying to figure out what was going on. And the meeting moved, and then they were trying to figure out who was actually in the meeting. So there were a lot of moving parts, to say the least.
So, Michael, this is Todd. So when you go back to the weekend before you slept 12 hours on Monday, when it got really bad, quote unquote, really bad, was it mainly Kiffin striking back because he wanted to coach the team so badly, or was it the Ole Miss fans reacting to Kiffin? What was worse? Just trying to get an accurate picture, like if we were watching a movie. What was the worst scenes?
It seems like the real tipping point was when he was really determined to coach the team through the playoff, even though he had already made it clear that he was leaving, and he was told no, and then he, reportedly threatened to take his offensive assistants with him immediately, and then would leave the cupboard bare for Ole Miss as they're in their first playoff. So. That got pretty ugly. I also think too, as this whole thing was unfolding, really after the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss wins that game, and he's non-committal afterwards, obviously, and then he starts tweeting things, and people are trying to determine what the tweets mean. His dog tweets something out about going to the SEC championship game, and people are like, okay, man, like, where are you actually in this process? Or are you staying at Ole Miss? What's going on? So I think that probably frustrated fans a little bit, just the sort of the gamesmanship that tends to happen with Lane Kiffin, but I do think that his wanting to coach the team in the playoff and being told no, and then him not taking that well was really kind of the breaking point for a lot of people.
Okay, so if you take it from where he, starts threatening to take the offensive staff and then actually does bring most of the offensive staff, but then you fast forward to this afternoon and he appeals to the committee and wants them to know that Charlie Weis is going to be able to coach. How did that happen from the Ole Miss perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I know that a lot was made of when Charlie got on the plane because as it was told, if he had allegedly told his assistants, if you don't get on the plane with me, you're not going to have a job. And so that was pretty intense. But obviously, Charlie got on the plane. But I do think that there comes a point where cooler heads prevail, and I think Charlie for sure wanted to see this thing through. And obviously, there's people saying, "Well, if you didn't let Lane see it through, why would you let Charlie see it through?" But I think at this point, this is about finishing this thing out as best you can. And as we just saw, the rankings just came out, and Ole Miss actually moved up a spot. They moved up to 6.
Just think how much it had moved up if Lane had stayed.
I know. But I think it's eventually cooler heads prevail, and credit to however it did happen. Lane didn't have to let Charlie do that, and it was a good move, kind of extending an olive branch of sorts. So yeah, I think Ole Miss is pretty happy that at least came of this.
Michael, Lane says he never did threaten to do that.
Which do you believe? Yeah, Lane said there wasn't an ultimatum. Do you believe that there was?
I mean, if you are asking me personally, I've seen it reported a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and you're right.
So
he didn't need to do that. He could have left Charlie there and hired him later. That he was. I think he was just showing his leverage, and that part of the leverage about the. That wasn't really written about a lot. It was somewhat because, if a coach leaves, like a player's hurt, it can affect it. But, well, let me ask you this, Michael. Do you believe the story that Lane said Monday about somebody trying to run him off the road?
No, because I know he had like a pretty big motorcade / escort. So that one's a little hard for me to believe. Maybe some embellishment there. I was not out there. I did not see that. But just given the security presence that I know he had, hard for me to see that being the case. But it's all about the story, right?
So, Michael, Pete Golding, would he have been the permanent head coach regardless of what happened, or is this more of a reaction from Ole Miss to try and stabilize things, at least heading into the playoffs, and then maybe forward into next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason maybe it happened this way is, this process dragged out as long as it did. And, everybody kind of started coming off the board Sunday morning with Summerall and Golish and all of these guys that Ole Miss had kind of been in the mix for, maybe not knowing completely what Lane was going to do up until Saturday night, kind of put him behind the 8 ball a little bit. But I think a lot of us here have thought that Pete Golding was going to be a head coach at some point. He's a great recruiter. He's a really good defensive coordinator. Guys will run through a wall for him. I just don't know if we thought it would happen now, but I think just with the circumstances being what they were, that obviously you think he can do the job in 2026 and beyond, but you're trying to win a national championship right now. This is an 11-1 team. That is again, it's making history for this program, making the playoff for the first time. So I think just for the sake of continuity and with signing day coming up and all those sorts of things, I think that keeping things as quote unquote status quo was probably not just a move for the future, but I think it probably helps them for trying to accomplish their goals right now too.
Right. So you mentioned signing day. I think there were 4 commitments from Ole Miss that had backed off the commitment when Lane left, and I just was curious: has there been any more activity in that at that level?
I think I've seen 4 or 5. I think was the last number I saw, which is, it's not surprising, especially for some of the guys who are offensive players. If you're an offensive guy and you committed to Ole Miss, it was probably because of Lane. That makes sense. So, but that's what I've seen so far. I know there was a tight end that decommitted who was probably the highest touted of them. He was a 4-star guy, so I know that one probably hurts Ole Miss. But
yeah, he committed
I'd have to imagine
LSU, right?
Yeah. So I have to imagine Pete Golding's. He hasn't had his intro press conference yet. That's tomorrow. And one, you can get 2 birds with one stone if you do it tomorrow and it's signing day. But 2, I have to imagine he's probably on the road recruiting pretty hard to try to get to keep the class together as much as he can.
Talking to Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal. Let me ask you real quick, Michael. If Ole Miss was not a playoff contender as this season ended and LSU still had the offer out to Lane, do you think that would have been a much quicker decision by Lane? And my question is it was all the delay and consternation. It seemed like it was more about just the playoff than Lane staying at Ole Miss. Is that accurate?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think that it's funny. I've had this conversation with a few people that, this season kind of caught people off guard. This wasn't supposed to be the playoff year. That was supposed to be last year.
Right.
When they had, one of the best rosters in school history and they lost those heartbreakers. This was supposed to be like an 8-4, 9-3-ish team with, 18 new starters. So I think it did catch people off guard. I don't want to say it caught Lane off guard, but if the LSU job came open, I don't think he imagined, coming to the season that it was going to be this sort of conversation. But, I think that he wanted to see this thing through as best he could, but ultimately he did what was best for him and his family.
Michael, appreciate your time. We'll see. Good luck for Ole Miss in the college football playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But we appreciate your time and all your help here over the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal. We'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Radio when we come back.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with Tiger Rag executive editor Todd Horne and the editor Glenn Guilbeau. We are inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studios. It appears most LSU fans are fully supportive of Lane Kiffin as the new head coach for LSU. But
I don't know how you couldn't be after watching that press conference yesterday if you're an LSU fan.
It was just
so he certainly won the press conference in your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Jerry DiNardo won the press conference.
That's great. That's great. Bring back the magic again.
But what you hear, and maybe it's just it's a bad take or it's a lazy take, if you would, is what has he really won other than 2 Conference USA championships? He's never beaten Alabama. How many big games has he truly won? I mean, I guess he's beaten LSU a couple of times. Beat Oklahoma this year.
He's won some big games this year.
Yeah.
But the biggest knock against him is the big game performance I think he's like 2-10
and similar to Brian Kelly. And, you were talking about it before we had Michael Katz on about, you take what he's been able to do at Ole Miss. Now you bring him to LSU and he's got more resources, so he should be more successful. Well, that was the same theory with Brian Kelly.
But the biggest difference between the two is Brian Kelly was always about process, and we've got to build, and we've got to develop, and he wasn't adjusted because he was hit with the NIL. Kelly was not an early adopter of the NIL.
He was not
neither was LSU.
Yeah, but
he was the leader and should have made him.
That comment Kiffin made yesterday when he was talking about this, he goes, "Hey, we look at the box and we figure out how to get out of the box," or something to that effect. That's true. And when you bring the offensive scheming that he does with that attitude towards the transfer portal, the NIL, the general management of the roster, the team, the money, the importance he places on that. That's what college football is right now, like it or not. That's what it is. Brian Kelly did not fit that. So if you want to talk about fit, that's what Brian Kelly didn't fit. And Brian Kelly was more of a developer. You know, if you really want to break it down, Brian Kelly wanted to have a strong offensive line, which he failed miserably at, with two tight ends and a strong running game, which he failed miserably at, and a strong defense, which he ultimately started to get towards, but for the most part failed miserably at. Kiffin, like we were saying earlier, Kiffin understands LSU. He understands Louisiana as far as recruiting. He understands what he needs to do. I'm not saying he's not going to make mistakes, but he's less prone to make mistakes, and he's more suited to today's college football game, which I think matches what LSU's hungry for.
He's ahead of the curve while Brian Kelly was behind the curve.
That's exactly
right. And he became the portal master, and now he doesn't need the portal as badly as he did at Ole Miss. But he'll still use it, but he'll be able to have better recruiting classes. And you know, he never really liked to recruit, but I think being at LSU is going to change that, and he's been recruiting really hard since he got here.
Since he drove up
Sunday
to the
night.
Ops building, right?
Yeah, and I think he realized that the portal may not be the answer completely, because he had the number one portal class in 24, and he had a disappointing season. So, and from what Sabin and Carroll have told him, and Jimmy Sexton, you know, I think he's going to try to take full advantage of the players close to Baton Rouge and in North Louisiana, in New Orleans and Houston, and you know, he's going to try to recruit really well, which Kelly, I think that was the main thing Kelly did not do. He did not recruit as well as he should have as the head coach here.
Well, I think the other thing that's really important is that Lane Kiffin is 50 years old, and he has a lot of energy, and he has a lot of desire.
Upside.
He's hungry to win.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly was not.
No, he was not. And Woodward should have saw that.
How concerned are you that 4 or 5 years from now he'll be looking to scratch the itch again?
I'm not concerned about that. I expect it.
He'll be doing well.
Yeah, and I expect that he will be like, oh well, I'd like to rewrite my NFL
that
chapter,
could happen.
or maybe he's beaten DeBoer in the SEC championship a few times, Kalen DeBoer, and they fire him and they want to hire him, and maybe that's an itch he
or
wants
he
to
could go to
scratch.
Texas.
Yeah.
Or San Francisco 49ers head coach.
But I think that's
or the Saints.
Calgary Stampeders.
I think if you're an LSU fan and that happens, that may hurt your feelings, a la Ole Miss right now. But that's the game.
That's the game. And LSU lost that when Saban went to Miami, but he set LSU up for the rest of the next many decades.
Hey, we got one more segment of Tiger Rag Radio for hour number 1, and then Peter Burns over at the SEC Network will be back after this from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio, we're back to Tiger Rag Radio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and the editor, Glenn Guilbeau. Looks like much of, especially on the offensive side of the football, much of Lane Kiffin's staff at Ole Miss is coming to LSU. What kind of role do you think Frank Wilson will have, or will he have, on the next staff?
I still think if he's going to have a role, it's going to be some type of associate coach, recruiting coordinator type
Could he
thing.
be more of a personnel guy?
He could be if he wants to be, but I don't know. I don't believe Frank Wilson is too happy with the way things have progressed to this early point.
Why do you say that?
Because I think he wanted a bigger, different role.
Like a position coach.
Right.
But he's not going to be running backs coach, probably.
Well, they've already brought in a running backs coach.
And you know, you can't. When a coach gets fired, most of the time, the new coach brings most of his staff in. That's just the way it is. You know, you can't keep more than a couple of guys in their role. But Lane used to coach with Frank at Tennessee, and he realizes the job Frank's done, keeping the staff together. I mean, keeping the recruiting class together.
Which is being torn apart on the eve of National Signing Day.
Yeah, well, but that's because Lane got here, maybe. Lane's saying we don't want these guys, I think.
Well, I think
he's bringing in more guys.
The NIL dynamics are changing. Money's being shuffled around.
Yeah, and he's got more of it. So, that's part of it.
We might be looking at exactly why Ole Miss was successful and has 4 10-win seasons recently, and LSU struggled.
Yeah.
And that may be roster development and roster evaluation and how to spend their money.
And Lane certainly has picked better players.
Yeah.
Than Brian Kelly did. And Lane is having Frank Wilson coach the Bulls. So I think there's going to be a spot for Frank at LSU, and there should be a good spot for him, even if it's not a position coach situation.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you think it's a slam dunk? Corey Raymond is on the staff. He sent out, I don't want to call it a cryptic tweet, but it was just weird that he put out a tweet today that showed basically his resume of the players that he has developed. I mean, why would he do that if he didn't think his job was
probably
potential?
Feeling a little bit insecure with constant change that's going on, and it's been rapid. I mean, it's been like minute after minute of change, and that's probably unnerving for anybody just from a human perspective. I think that Corey Raymond is the most important person on that defense, the most important to keep.
If I had to pick one guy to keep, he would definitely be the top guy.
Yeah, and if nothing else, because of the relationship he has with DJ Pickett,
Yeah.
although it's deeper than that.
He's a good coach and a good recruiter.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then Austin Thomas, I don't know. It doesn't look good for him, in my view.
I don't see a role for him unless it's changing to some other associate AD role type of situation.
Yeah, they got how many personnel people do you need? My goodness.
It's run like an NFL organization now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but Kiffin has already brought his general manager with him.
That's what I'm
He's already
saying.
brought his recruiting.
And Austin left Kiffin. Kiffin might not appreciate
there might be
that.
a little bit of bad blood there.
Or maybe it's simple as I feel better with this new guy than I did when you were there.
Yeah, right.
Very interesting. We'll be learning a lot of stuff.
It's a shame Austin Thomas hasn't come on the show and talked to us about.
It reminds me of when DiNardo took over. He had a Vanderbilt player at Vanderbilt that he didn't get along with, and that player transferred to LSU. And then the next year, DiNardo was back at LSU. And he said, "Hello, I'm your worst nightmare." It was some kicker, but he kept him on the team. So that might be how Austin is now.
Peter Burns from the SEC Network. We'll talk to him about the coaching carousel and if he had his popcorn out on Saturday watching Marty Smith and then watching all the developments on Sunday. I know he does a radio show on Sunday mornings, so we'll talk with him and a lot more still to come here. We'll get into the recruiting aspect as well as we are on the eve of the early signing period. So stay tuned. More of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
What's required and asked of you to represent our university.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
We're
SEC.
on in to finish what we've started.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What a
talk.
privilege. you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Sunshine Quality Solutions. Super Chevy Dealers. And Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Andre Champagne and our hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
Three great players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And welcome to hour number 2 of Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine. That would be Todd Horne. And the editor, Glenn Guilbeau. Andre Champagne, our producer. Jeff Palermo here with you for hour number 2. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll talk some recruiting. And that has been fast and furious today as players have decommitted or reopened their commitment. LSU commits, that is. And then there's kids that were committed to Ole Miss that are coming to LSU. Kids that were committed to LSU are going to Ole Miss. 5-star prospects holding off on signing just yet. So a lot of craziness with all of that. I honestly feel sorry for people that are actually trying to really keep up with that.
Yeah, you're upsetting Luke right now.
Luke is Andre Champagne. You got to tell the audience. Yeah, Andre's been on edge today. Me and Andre back here in the newsroom, our heads have been spinning all day. Hey, and later on we'll hear from Jerit Roser from Louisiana versus all y'all. But let's bring in the from the SEC networks. From the SEC network, Peter Burns joins us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Peter, always a pleasure to have you on Tiger Rag Radio. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good. I will say this now with the transfer portal. I used to lose my mind on signing day about hey, what faxes were going to come in, and oh my God, this guy flipped or this guy may not, and what's the rumors are. Now I realize I'm like, even if you don't get them the first time, there's like a good 80% chance, as long as you're in the run, you're probably going to get them the second time when they transfer out. So I don't lose as much hair as I used to on signing day anymore.
Well, hey Peter, this is Todd. I first of all, I don't have any hair to lose. So, but before I can even start thinking about signing day or even the transfer portal or anything like that, I have to know how Marty Smith is doing from this weekend, and I figure you probably have some inside info on that.
Yeah, we got him hooked up to an IV of just gravy and biscuits. So we're getting him, we're feeding him well. My goodness, I mean, I felt like it was like he was a hostage at some point, like looking for proof of life for Marty. And at that point, man, you're just kind of waiting. And I think that's what everybody was having. I mean, the amount of text. I mean, listen, I always have a bunch of texts from, different things that are going on. I think I read it. I had 1,300 unread text messages in the span of about a week. Oh. And, I mean, that's from friends that are LSU guys that want to know what's going on, and then Ole Miss people wanting to know what's going on, and Florida people wanting to go what's on. And then so finally it gets overwhelming because honestly, for a while, no one really knew. I mean, I think it was late into the process that, Lane was even kind of deciding on what he was going to do and what that future was going to look like. So we've started the SEC Network in 2014. It was by far the craziest 48 hours I've ever had on, any college football weekend.
Peter, Verge Osbury, LSU's athletic director, was on the first segment of our show tonight. And Glenn asked him when he really knew, and he said after the LSU-Oklahoma game on Saturday night was the first time he was really confident that it was going to happen.
Sounds about right. I mean, again, I had been told that, hey, I think a couple things could be true. I think that there probably was a deal in place at Florida and a deal in place at LSU, not necessarily signed, but just like, hey, this is what the contract would agree to, how many years, what it would look like, any NIL type stuff and kind of the bells and whistles. And it was just a matter of, all right, who was going to get the services, and was there going to be a last second change of heart? And we clearly knew that wasn't going to be the case. Coming into that Saturday, leading into Sunday, and that Lane had said, hey, I'm definitely taking this job. I want to be able to coach as long as possible. And I think he needed to read the room a little bit better. I mean, you guys know I'm a diehard LSU fan. I'm going to pull for the purple and gold as long as I live, right? And so, but at the same time, I'm as happy as I am having Lane, and it's going to be a great hire, I think, and exactly what LSU needed. I wish Lane would have read the room a little bit better and handled it differently, but at the end of the day, I don't know how many divorces in life end up being that don't have a little bit of mess to it.
Hey, Peter, this is Glenn. Thanks for joining us. As a broadcaster, I wanted to get your opinion on the amount of criticism Nick Saban is getting for, advising Lane to go to LSU after. A couple of weeks ago, I think he said on the air that he should stay at Ole Miss. Just how do you see that as he's been getting a lot of criticism. I think he was behaving as a friend of Lane, maybe as a coach, but yet he's a broadcaster. How do you see all that?
And also part of Alabama's, crew. All right. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's still got an office there.
He does.
And I think,
and a check.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's you kind of serve a couple of different masters in that world, so you have to compartmentalize it and go, all right, if you're asking about the job itself, out of all the jobs that are out there, Nick Saban probably believes, and I think firmly in his heart, that if you get LSU going, it's as good as anything, and he's seen it, right? And I think the biggest regret he arguably had was leaving for the Dolphins when he could have stayed there. I think that'll always kind of eat at him, and I think maybe that's him living a little vicariously through Lane. But at the same point, I do believe that he would have liked to have seen him coach Ole Miss for the entire rest of the season. But I think Nick had to also understand in this world of the transfer portal, in which Nick wasn't a part of for a long time, that can't happen. And I mean, I can't imagine a world in which, Alabama would allow a head coach to, I'm just thinking Kirby Smart wins the lotto tomorrow and decides he's just going to go, play golf all the time, that you would let Alabama do that all while going to Georgia next. And so it's a mess, and I think Nick can blame it on the calendar, but at the end of the day, he probably needed to also know, come on, man, you wouldn't allow that to happen. And I mean, Nick saw it firsthand, right? I mean, Coach Saban saw it firsthand of what Lane did just as the offensive coordinator at Alabama when he took the FAU job. Like, it was so atrocious that he let him go the week leading into it. And so, yeah, it's a little disingenuous, but I also understand that he probably said, hey, you need to try to finish what you start as well.
Peter, switching gears a little bit, and sort of taking off your purple and gold LSU hat for a second, from an unbiased standpoint, as a television reporter, television host, how do you see this? This is a seismic shift in terms of a coach, and we were talking about it earlier. I mean, Lane Kiffin is so much of an obvious better fit for LSU in this period of college football right now than Brian Kelly was, in our opinions. But what do you see the SEC looking like next year with these players in place? And there's been a lot of other changes, of course, at other SEC schools: Florida, Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky now.
Yeah, I mean, this is as much as change. I mean, we are going to have 6 new coaches, or 6 teams will have new coaches coming out next year. I joked around, we'll all need name tags for the most part when we get the SEC spring meetings in Destin here in a couple of months. And I mean, and the problem is right now is you really can't project it. I mean, guys, y'all have been on top of this for, in 2019, 2017, 2013, we could always tell who was going to be good because the recruiting classes, how they were developing talent. And now that question is almost impossible to answer of who's going to be good year to year, because you have to wait until you see what the transfer portal. And I think that's why, take the purple and gold off of myself, who has handled the transfer portal arguably better of landing big-time talent than Lane Kiffin? I'm not sure many people have. Now, the question is can you combine that with great recruiting classes that LSU has? Then you're unleashing a monster. But, this is the big caveat. Lane had a monster last year, and it wasn't good enough. And he was distracted. And now, was that distraction possibly flirting with Florida or other things going on in his life? Maybe. And I think that's the biggest question. There's no doubt he's an offensive genius. The question is on whether or not how sustainable is it and how locked in he is. And I think that's a big question that LSU was asking itself. And it's a risk they're willing to take right now. And I hope Lane learns from all of this and says, man, I got an opportunity to do something that Nick Saban wishes he could do, which was win 2 national championships or more at LSU, and he's got to be a lot more focused than he has been over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Lane had all the resources, all the recruiting, and everything a coach could want when he was at USC, and he failed there. But I want to ask you, Peter, put your purple and gold hat back on.
Back on. Okay, good. I feel more comfortable in that world.
And I want you to tell me, what do you think of LSU finally having a head coach who is a true offensive coordinator? Even when LSU was successful, Dietzel, Sabin, Miles, Orgeron, those were defensive coaches. Guys. Yeah, this guy's a coordinator and a play caller. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, as much as I love the 03, 07 national championships, which my favorite, there's no doubt, 2019. I mean, and that was Joe Burrow and Ensminger calling that offense, and and all that whole crew, along with Joe Brady, that was exciting. And now I think that's why, guys, it's so imperative that if you can keep Blake Baker there as a defensive coordinator, and you sell Blake Baker on the fact of go look at Dan Lanning at Oregon. He wasn't a head coach. He was a coordinator, and he got a huge job. Look at Kirby. He was a coordinator, hadn't been a head coach, and he got a huge job at Georgia. Like, the fact of, you could go down the road and learn how to coach, quote-unquote, coach at Tulane, but let's be honest. Who knows, if you have 2 or 3 bad years, you may have lost, any kind of leverage that you have. So I think it'd be smart for Blake to stay there, and now we've got an offensive-minded genius, and everybody lock the blank in and kick everybody's ass.
What do you think about the chances if Blake stays? They're able to convince Blake to stay if Tulane really comes after him, like I'm hearing they are, of Blake staying and Ed Ogeron coming in.
I'm fascinated by that, right? I mean, I thought that was the best moment of Lane's presser is him kind of, getting away from kind of the scripted awkwardness, which Lane's not a gifted orator, right? Like he's not going to win that press conference. But that was the first real moment when he said he called Coach O, and it channeled him, and that felt real, and that was cool. I think that's a dangerous thing. As much as I'd like to see it, you also talk about a guy that understood. I mean, he had the world hanging by whatever you want when he won that national championship in 2019. Can they work together? We saw Bobby Petrino go back to Fayetteville, and offensively they were good. Now, as a head coach, he wasn't very good. But I'd love to see it for the Twitter aspect of it, and, kind of getting all the Avengers together and going back. But I think it's more impressive you keep Frank Wilson on this staff and make sure those New Orleans ties are in and what he's meant to those players than anything else.
Corey Raymond and Corey Raymond.
Corey Raymond, too.
And Corey Raymond as well, yeah.
Peter, thanks a lot for your time, man. Appreciate it. Who do you got this Saturday? Who do you like, Alabama or Georgia?
Golly, Alabama just has a way with Georgia. I mean, again, it's just they can't get over that hump, and then it'll be great college football playoffs, to say the least.
Yeah, it will be. Thanks a lot, Peter. We appreciate your time.
Later, boys.
Louisiana native and SEC Network's Peter Burns. We'll take a break and more on Lane Kiffin, new head football coach of the LSU Tigers. We'll get to more of that when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studios.
Were you going to talk about yoga?
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious with multiple engine options and impressive towing. While Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability, making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a 4th-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
All right, back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and Glenn Guilbeau. Let's hear from some of the best sound bites from Lane Kiffin and his Monday press conference. And I also need to tell you that Tiger Rag Radio is now available on podcast. Everywhere you go. Everywhere you would want to get a podcast, Tiger Rag Radio is available.
And it will be available tonight.
Yes.
So be ready.
As well as on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. So can't say that enough, and I need to say that more. So anyways.
Tune in and listen to Verge Osbury's interview at 6 o'clock,
right.
Top of the show.
Yeah, so if you missed the Verge Osbury interview or the interview with Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal in hour number 1, those are there, or you just missed the Peter Burns interview.
And the Marty Smith update.
And Michael Katz is not the Ole Miss reporter who called Lane Kiffin a hoax.
All right. I think in my time in Tiger Rag Radio, the word hoe has never been used until tonight.
You know that Lane Kiffin actually apologized?
He did. He called him the next day. As busy as Lane was on Saturday, he called that guy and apologized.
And then he sent him a meme that he was going LSU.
That's why that guy was really upset, because he was losing a coach.
Yeah. All right, let's. Okay, we can now move forward. I think.
Yes.
Here we go. Here are some of the greatest hits from Lane Kiffin's press conference. Here's this one, obviously talking about him getting advice from Pete Carroll and Nick Saban.
I felt like everybody that I talked to outside of the state that I was in all basically said the same thing. They all said, man, you are going to regret it if you don't take the shot and you don't go to LSU. It's the best job in America. It's the best resources.
I'm glad, Glenn, you asked Peter Burns about this heat that Nick Saban is getting. And I don't know if it's maybe just a Dave Portnoy thing or what, or some of these national talking heads that don't. And I agree with you. I think at the time, Nick Saban is taking off his ESPN blazer or hat or whatever you want to say it, and it's more of a mentor-pupil type of conversation or a friend versus friend conversation as of, hey, I work for ESPN, and I think it would be better if you worked at LSU.
Yeah, and I mean, he's all, like Peter said, he's he's a friend of Lane.
Yeah,
he's a former, he's a mentor of Lane. He turned around Lane's career when it was in bad shape.
Right.
So Lane thinks a lot of Nick and Nick's opinion.
And Nick coach here. So why wouldn't you talk? Even though it was 20 years ago, why wouldn't you talk to him?
Right, and yet, and Nick also works for Alabama. He's still getting paid by Alabama, and it hurts Alabama to me that Lane's at LSU. Yeah. Because LSU's going to be better, which could hurt Alabama. Right. So, but I mean, Nick's just being a guy. Yeah. I mean, he was trying to help a friend, and ESPN should enjoy that, because here's the biggest story in college football the last few weeks, and they got an insider there, a real insider, who's being talked to about the job, because Lane and Nick have the same agent. So I don't really think Nick
Verge was confiding in.
Yeah, and also Tiger Rag had the fact that Nick was advising Lane 2 weeks before these national people who are just writing about it now.
Damn right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Nick did anything wrong.
No, and I think he really spelled it out very well on Saturday morning on College Game Day on what was going on. I mean, he basically told you what was going on, what the situation of whether he should coach the team through the playoffs. But I don't know. The national talking heads on this story are just so dang lazy. It just infuriates me.
Yeah, and
because they don't understand.
Right. Exactly.
They don't get it. They don't. As Lane said in the press conference, the power of this place, or what Louisiana LSU football is all about, and the SEC, and they're living in New York or LA or where, they have no idea. Yeah, and they're just rattling off these stupid opinions, and it's aggravating.
Yeah, and Dan Wolken, who I used to be an employee with at USA Today, he's a great guy, great columnist. I really think he's been wrong, because he doesn't realize that the playoffs have changed, and coaches are getting fired earlier now. Yeah. So the calendar's changed. And there's going to be more coaches in the Lane Kiffin situation. He just happens to be the first one.
I think that's a great point, Glenn, and you gave that point to me on Sunday. And I really think, this is just the first of many of these situations occurring.
But I think it's going to change this offseason. I think they're going to make substantial changes because of
this. Where are they going to put this early signing period? Are they going to go back to February?
Get rid of it completely is what they need to do. Just go back to February, move the portal window out of January, and put it in April or May.
I don't know you can do that.
Well,
I don't think you can do that.
Whatever they need to do to make it happen, they need to make.
You
that
have
happen.
semesters. That's the thing. That's. I'm going back to Glenn's.
Well,
Glenn's
the one now is after the first semester. I'm just saying, put it in after the second semester.
I don't know.
Spring football is not that important anyway. Don't get me started on spring football.
But I think where they'll eventually go, and I didn't know we were going to go down this, but I think they're going to go more to the OTA model than spring football. But they'll have that in the spring semester.
Thank you. Okay. They should follow the NFL model. Have the free agency in the NFL is in March, so make the college football free agency in April.
Well, if they're going to follow the NFL model, then the coaches are protected.
Yeah, exactly, and that window would allow for that.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, well, There was some more sound, but maybe we'll get to him a little bit later. We got to talk.
Sorry about that.
No, but we had a good conversation there. We needed to get that off our chest. Anyways, when we come back here, we're going to hear from Jerit Roser. Things have been crazy on the recruiting front, and Jerit has been trying to cover it like all of us. He's with Louisiana versus all y'all, and he'll tell us about some of the LSU players in particular that have decommitted from LSU. So we'll get into that, and then also talk a little bit about Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson, two of the top defensive linemen in the country, what they will do. So we'll get to that here on Tiger Rag Radio.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. For more than 100 years, Louisiana Farm Bureau has been the voice of Louisiana agriculture. Louisiana Farm Bureau advocates on behalf of all the farmers and ranchers across our great state. What that really means is we advocate for you to ensure we have the safest, most abundant, and affordable food supply in the world. Louisiana Farm Bureau is 145,000 members strong, and we want you to join the Louisiana Farm Bureau family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me, home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
We love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
We're back on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers studio. Jeff Palermo along with Andre Champagne, who joins me for this segment, a recruiting segment, and it's a wild and crazy time with the early signing period getting underway on Wednesday. LSU had a class of about 15 players prior to the hiring of Lane Kiffin, but that is changing by the hour, by the minute, by the second. And here to try to keep tabs on all of it, it is Jerit Roser with Louisiana versus all y'all. Jerit, thanks a lot for joining us. Crazy times right now. It's been a crazy month covering the LSU football program, but some notable high school football stars from the state of Louisiana, guys like Warren Easton offensive lineman Jalen Chapman, airline receiver Kenny Darby, Tioga receiver Kervin Johnson. He has flipped his commitment from LSU to Ole Miss. Darby is decommitted. Easton has reopened his commitment. So obviously Lane Kiffin has come in and he is looking to recruit. He's basically changing the recruiting class on the fly here, despite these kids, many of them, being committed to LSU for months. Your thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's always tough in situations like this, and I think you phrased it extremely well, because I think it's important for fans to realize that when players announce decommitments, as aggressive as some fans kind of backlash at them, I mean, at least half the time, if not more than half the time, it's a matter of the schools backing out on the kids and it being framed or phrased a certain way. And so kind of take all that into consideration as you react to some of this. A lot of this is, a new coaching staff coming in place and having different evaluations, having different recruiting boards, bringing in a different system that different guys are going to fit differently. And so it has made for at least as chaotic and fluid of a couple of days leading into signing day as you would expect with a coaching change, if not even a little more so. But you mentioned the 3 in-state guys that announced their decommitments or reopenings or flips or whatnot over the course of Tuesday. There have been 2 previous Ole Miss commits in tight end J.C. Anderson and offensive lineman Ryan Moret, who have announced their flips to LSU. And so there's a lot happening very quickly, and it's definitely a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, hey, Jerit, this is Andre. I just wanted to ask you more so, I know you just touched on it a little bit, but do you feel like this is maybe more Kiffin pushing guys out, or maybe is it a little bit of a mix of both, Kiffin trying to get his own guys there, as well as maybe a mix of, because Darby is a 4-star, I'm just kind of thinking maybe it's because, Cortez Hankton might be getting let go, maybe some staff changes coming to the Tiger staff soon?
Yeah, I mean, all of that is still very much fluid on even the staff construction, obviously, right now. And we're kind of, as the days go by this week, hearing, who the next name is that may be coming from Oxford to Baton Rouge, and kind of trying to figure out what impact that could have. And just as we're trying to keep tabs with it as it develops from the outside, you're talking about high school athletes and soon to be college athletes who are trying to figure out what is the best fit for them and their development and how their future develops, not only at college, but setting themselves up for beyond that. And there's probably some of this that, as much as we talked during that 5-week span where LSU had fired Brian Kelly, or moved on from Brian Kelly and had yet to name its next head coach, we didn't see a lot of decommitments. And part of that was a credit to the strength of the relationship of the position coaches with a lot of the commits, and particularly the in-state commits. And so guys that were really more so committed to Cortez Hankton or Frank Wilson or Corey Raymond or, on down the list or around the list than they were necessarily to Brian Kelly. And now we're at that point where, okay, the staff changes are starting to be figured out a little bit here. And again, at the same time, you're dealing with a new staff that's coming in and looking at what they want their recruiting class to look like. To some degree, they're trying to put together a recipe for championship contention, and they want to make sure that they have the player personnel ingredients that best fit that in their estimation moving forward. And I think more of what we're seeing right now with Jalen Kenny and Curvin is a matter of the latter. But like anything else, there's kind of different pieces at play to things like this, and quickly developing staffs and relationships.
Two of the biggest names in this recruiting class, Richard Anderson and Lamar Brown, and now there's questions on whether they will sign here during this 3-day signing period. And I would imagine, Jerit, NIL piece of this is also a major part of this because let's face it, even though it's not supposed to be pay for play, come on, we all know we all know what's going on. And there's a new sheriff in town, and he wants to do things a little bit differently. So, what could you say about in particular Richard Anderson, who I think is just an absolutely dominating player for Edna Carr this season, and looking forward to seeing him play Friday night against Catholic High, but maybe he might wait till February to sign. What are you hearing on him?
Yeah, and you guys know, we've talked through the course of this day. I view those two guys, Lamar Brown and Richard Anderson, as kind of 1A and 1B in the class, and in state certainly, and two of the top national prospects that are kind of must get. Like you don't want, whether it be the old staff, the new staff, any staff that would have hypothetically been here. I think those are two guys that you want to make sure you do not let leave the state of Louisiana. And so certainly some understandable anxiety for fans hearing any level of hesitation on signing day eve that those signatures might not be coming in first thing on Wednesday morning, because you don't want to risk having those guys go elsewhere. But I would think for Kiffin and company that they will view those two prospects the same way and try and figure out what they need to do to assure that they're a part of this class. I know both of those guys are guys that it's meant something to in a big way to want to play for LSU and represent the home state and all of those things. And, the money piece of it is, for guys of that caliber, going to be a part of the conversation in modern college recruiting more so than ever. And we'll see how some of those conversations continue to develop. I would anticipate they both still end up in Baton Rouge for college, but we're kind of waiting to see how some things play out, certainly.
One kid that I'm really impressed with, Jabari Mack, the wide receiver at Destrehan. Your thoughts on him, Jerit? Because I've had a chance to see him 3 times this season, and each time I came away more impressed after I watched him.
Yeah, he's someone that I think not far behind Rich and Lamar on a lot of recruiting rankings, including my own throughout their high school careers. And someone that has offers from colleges all over the country. I mean, there's probably a shorter list of schools that didn't offer him than did by a long shot. And so hopefully he's still settled in this class. As of what I was last told here Tuesday afternoon, he's still full go, ready to sign on Wednesday and celebrate that in the afternoon over at Destrehan High. He's someone that is a physical freak, as strong and muscular as you'll see in a high school wide receiver, and pretty fearless in terms of the physicality to his game, but also has track speed and has shown the versatility to be a weapon that for Destrehan, and you would think at the next level with Lane Kiffin and company, can be split out wide, can move all over the formation, can be a wildcat presence or line up in the backfield alongside a quarterback, and really be a playmaker any which way you give him that opportunity. And so when we were told by Lane Kiffin on Monday kind of the outlook of their offensive scheme, and they're not trying to necessarily just think outside the box, but at times create an entirely new box of how to approach things, not just be stuck in traditions. I think that's the type of mentality that has to be, and sounds like it has been, extremely exciting to a guy like Jabari Max that can do a lot of things.
Hey, Jerit, thanks a lot, man, for talking with us. It should be wild here over the next few days, so buckle up, man. Who knows what's going to happen, but continue your great work over at Louisiana versus all y'all, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Pleasure, Jeff. Appreciate you, man. Anytime.
All right, that is Jerit Roser. More of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio when we come back.
Back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Hey, welcome back to Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. And you can get Tiger Rag Radio on any podcast that you use, any podcast platform. Don't forget about that. So our man Andre Champagne puts that together right after the show in case you missed any of our segments here on Tiger Rag Radio. Let's hear a little bit more from Lane Kiffin on Monday. This was probably the best part. It's a shortened version of it. We get right to the punchline where obviously after being called every name in the book and a lot of one-finger salutes on his way out of Oxford, some mixed feelings by Lane as he was flying down to Baton Rouge, but then he got caught up in all of the excitement of LSU fandom and driving by Tiger Stadium, and so then he had to call his good friend Ed Orgeron, and again, here's a little bit of what Lane Kiffin had to say about that.
We were in the car, and the kids were in there, and I was like, and the coaches, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like channeling Ed right now. I was like, I'm feeling him. I rolled down the window, and I was like, go Tigers to the fans.
Really was.
Go Tigers.
That was a better imitation of Ed Orgeron than Brian Kelly did of whatever he was trying to do at the basketball game. But that was really funny.
Yeah.
And it was completely off the cuff.
Yeah, and I thought it was genuine too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really thought it was. I mean, I think the excitement of it, and then we were talking about it earlier in the show, for him to go through the football operations building, and you see the national championship trophies, you see the Heisman trophies. You know, this is what he was talking about, right? About a month ago when he was asked about what are the best qualities of a football program, and 100,000 seat stadiums, Heisman Trophy winners, championships, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fertile recruiting.
Yeah.
A little more specific this time. But that was pretty cool. And he saw all that at Alabama when he was there. But I've gotten this feeling from other writers too. There's something exotic about LSU.
Yeah.
The swamp. The night football,
the food,
and
tailgating,
and the stadium is really important. One of the national writers, I'm not going to say her name, tweeted this last week, and it said he's really going to leave for a stadium, but he is kind of.
Yeah.
A lot of this is about the stadium, and the stadium is much more than just a stadium. I mean, the stadium is the center of the LSU football culture.
Yeah.
And he talked about the stadium for a good 15 minutes, yesterday.
I always think of It Never Rains in Tiger Stadium and John Ed Bradley, and he always talks about how Tiger Stadium is haunted.
Yes.
And it's,
yeah.
and that's the feeling you get,
Yeah.
especially whenever it's dusk and you're driving in and it's lit up.
Yeah.
And one thing we don't think about that Lane brought up is, we're always there kind of either covering LSU or as kids an LSU fan, but he was there as the enemy.
Yeah.
And just the weight of it he was talking about. That was just very, very spellbinding.
I thought this was a very interesting answer. And Andre, I think this is Lane Kiffin 3. I've lost track of which one, where he was asked how he became such an offensive guru. And he talked about the 3 people most important in his life on a football side: his dad, Monty Kiffin, Pete Carroll, and Nick Saban, all defensive guys. And he learned from them as far as how to build a great offense. And I thought this answer was fascinating.
I basically spent the majority of my life with those 3 defensive minds. Over time, always listening to them, what gave them problems, as 3 of the best defensive minds to ever coach this game. I mean, how blessed am I that I got to be around those 3 people, and then think about, okay, combine all that they said and put this thing together.
I thought that was pretty neat because I always wondered why. I always thought that too. Maybe I'm sure he's said that story 1,000 times, and this is the first time I'm hearing it. But I always wondered, I found it interesting that, his dad was a defensive guru, and he got along with Nick Saban, even one's offense, one's defense, and he's a former quarterback, talking about Lane Kiffin, but here he is becoming one of the best play callers despite all of these influences of defensive minds around him.
Yeah, because he learned so much from them about what they were trying to stop.
Yeah.
And he took his offensive knowledge and what he learned from Art Briles and Briles' family at Florida Atlantic, and then he puts all that together into this offense that has torn it up in the last 9 years. And one other thing, really quickly, Ed Ogeron was on Mike Detilier's show about a month ago and was talking about how Lane Kiffin has the unique ability, rare ability, to see all 22 players on the field at the same time in slow motion. And he said he's just able to put that together and make the right play call at the right time because he's that.
Wow, that's impressive.
I wonder if any of those 3 mentors were ever mad that he didn't become a defensive coordinator. He's a rebel. He went the other way.
We got one more segment to do, so we have to contractually talk about hoops. So we'll get to that when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
I'm Richard Fontenot, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. My brother and I grow rice, soybeans, and raise crawfish on our farm in Evangeline Parish. For a 4th-generation farmer like myself, Louisiana Farm Bureau is as much a part of my life as checking traps or harvesting rice. Our organization is more than 145,000 members strong, and we've been around for more than 100 years. The Louisiana Farm Bureau spans generations, and we want you to join our family.
Visit lafarmbureau.org. The Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
And we're back with Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And don't forget, you can listen back to Tiger Rag Radio on every available podcast platform that is out there. So if you missed the show, you can certainly catch it there,
as well as YouTube.
And YouTube. I gotta see. I gotta add more content to it. You're right.
I think that's the 4th time you've mentioned that. Good job.
It's to miss all the other times I was supposed to say something about it. All right, let's talk a little hoops. Jalen Reed is out for the year again. He injured his Achilles in the Emerald Gulf Coast Classic. How big of a blow is this to Matt McMahon's team?
Yeah, I'm going to have to defer to Glenn because he's been covering them more closely than I have, but I would think that it is maybe not as nearly as big a blow to this team as it was to last year's team, just because they have more size and more depth than they did. Not to say that he's not a valuable starting big man player for that team, but I think they have more ability to overcome that loss than they did last year.
That's true, but, man, that was a luxury. He wasn't starting this season. He was coming off the bench because Matt was bringing him along slow from the ACL injury and surgery, and then this is Achilles on his other leg. And it was just nice to have a guy like that coming off the bench.
A 4-year guy.
Yeah, and he's a redshirt junior, so he actually can
he'll
come
be back.
back.
I guess he'll be back next year.
But, that's a tough blow, man.
He could probably still redshirt, too, because this is only 7 games in.
Yeah,
but didn't he redshirt last year? He's a
redshirt
now
junior.
you can redshirt every year that you that you need to redshirt, or you have, ask Diego Paz.
But
that was more junior college, but I get what you're saying.
Tells you how busy Saturday was, because I was writing about Lane Kiffin Saturday, and I was monitoring the LSU basketball game on Saturday, and I did not notice that Jalen didn't play in that game.
Yeah,
because he played the night before, and I just went back and checked the box scores. I said, I wonder if he played, and sure enough, he didn't play. So I missed that. So I should have known there was something up, because he got hurt on Friday. They had a game on Saturday, but that's a tough break, man. And he's a great kid. We did a nice feature on him for the Tiger Rag magazine last month. New Tiger Rag magazine just came out. It'll be in your stores shortly. Lane Kiffin's on the cover. Good pick there, Todd Horne. I wanted to go with Eli Drinkwitz.
So speaking of LSU men's basketball, they play Boston College tomorrow night.
Right.
They're 7-0, and
yes.
They're peaking at the top 25.
19 in the net.
Yeah, 19 in the net.
They're playing very well. They one of the highest scoring teams in the country. They have fewest assists allowed. They're nationally highly ranked in that. They're playing very well.
All right. Well, big test tomorrow. Lady Tigers will play Duke on Thursday. They have scored 100 points in every game.
On ESPN.
I think tomorrow, no?
And unfortunately.
Tomorrow. No, Thursday.
And unfortunately, Duke was expected to be a highly ranked team, or at least in the top 25 by the time this came along, and they're nowhere near
Kim knew that was coming. That's why she scheduled it.
Speaking of the net rankings,
they're number one.
They're number one.
But they will go through the entire preseason not playing one ranked team, which is just awful. I don't care how you say. I don't care. You can't sugarcoat it.
It works for Kim.
It's awful.
You are banned. You are banned.
Well, Kim is no longer the diva of LSU athletics.
Yeah,
Lane Kiffin is.
Yeah, but come on, you got it. And I understand. I don't know.
Hey, Matt McMahon and Kim were not at the intro press conference yesterday. Jay Johnson was. Jay Clark was. No Matt, no Kim. Maybe that's because it's basketball season and they probably had practice.
They might be practicing.
I think the men probably went from Florida to Boston, if I bet. I don't think they would have come back.
They might not have come back. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for us. We will be back next Tuesday. Lane Kiffin hopefully will still be the coach.
And he will be a guest on this show.
Wow.
How
I
don't know if it'll be next week, but we're going to get him.
All right. That does it for Tiger Rag Radio. Have a great night, everyone.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TigerRagMagazine. Or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.